Good morning and welcome to today's episode of the St. Augustine Chronicles. I'm so honored today to have in studio Debbie Morales and Chelsea Cottle of the Women's Refuge of St. Johns County. I've seen a presentation that they did to my Rotary group recently, and it really struck me. It stayed with me. And so I'm honored to have them share their story today. And if you're watching this, I think it will stay with you as well. Before we get started, I want to talk about our two sponsors, the Kookaburra Coffee. Proudly founded in St. Augustine in 2012, the Kookaburra is your local home for fresh roasted coffee and made from scratch baked goods. From legendary Aussie meat pies to scones and sweet pastries, everything is crafted to pair perfectly with their signature coffees. Whether you love a smooth, flat white, a bold Aussie iced coffee, or their famous Honey Badger latte. With multiple locations throughout St. Augustine, the Kookaburra is part of the community and part of your daily routine, from morning commutes to weekend strolls. The Kookaburra, Aussie coffee, St. Augustine local. And our second sponsor is my real estate brokerage, 97 Park Residential and Commercial Real Estate. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in property in St. Augustine? Trust 97 Park, your local residential and commercial real estate experts. From historic homes to business spaces and investment properties, 97 Park delivers market knowledge, smart strategy, and personalized service every step of the way. And when you're ready to make your move, contact me, Karen Zander, directly at 904-297-3471. 97 Park, real estate done right here in St. Augustine. All right, so I would love to, Debbie, let you talk a little bit about your personal story and the Women's Refuge, and then Chelsea, I want that background in place before we go to you, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Because I think your story will make more sense if we share the kind of the background first.
Okay.
So I usually start by asking people, were you born here? Did you grow up here, or how did you get here?
So I was actually born in Orlando, Florida. But I was raised in Broward County, Florida. I'd say Fort Lauderdale, Pompano, Deerfield. That's really where I've lived my entire life. I think St. Augustine is the only other place I've been.
It must have been very different growing up in those places than what it is now.
Very different. When I moved here, well, that's a long story because I didn't just volunteer to move here. God brought me here in 2008. But when I moved here, coming from a city life, I was in culture shock. It took me a while, but I love it, and I don't want to be anywhere else.
I had the same experience. I moved here from Las Vegas in 1998, and my husband's job brought us to Northeast Florida, and I had no idea. I thought I was moving to like palm trees in South Florida and all that, Miami. I was here for less than 24 hours to find a house. And so I thought, well, it's so strange. My real estate agents have a Southern accent. Like, what's that about? And I was in such culture shock in 98. I remember we lived in Julington Creek Plantation, which is really more Jacksonville than it is St. Augustine. And in the first couple of weeks, I realized the only Starbucks at that time was at the airport. Like, Starbucks are everywhere, but no, not here back then. So I get the whole culture shock thing. What brought you here?
Like I said, God brought me here. I would have to share a little bit of my history.
If you feel comfortable.
Yes. So I grew up in the church, and this plays a huge role in how I ended up here and even where I am today. So I grew up going to church, and I was introduced to the things of God at a very young age, and I'm very thankful for that foundation, because I believe that is what brought me to my knees and brought me, again, where I am today. So my childhood and teenage years were very difficult. Just not to get into too much detail, but around, I'd say I was like 11 or 12 years old. My parents divorced, and we bounced around a lot, and I got pregnant at 16, and had my son at 17, and just a very rocky past, and in a homeless shelter with my son newborn, and just things like that. And but going back to this church, I remember from this homeless shelter taking the city bus and going back to this church that I grew up in, even though I didn't really understand a lot. I was just introduced to Christ, and now looking back, I can see that going back there to visit with, just sitting in the back pew holding my son, I felt safe. And even at that time, I was seeking God, and I truly believe that. So there was this family that I trusted, that I loved very dearly, who saw, how I was living, what was going on, and they offered to care for my son until I got on my feet. And at first I said no. I wanted to raise him, but after 8 months of living in a homeless shelter and trying to get back on my feet, it was very tough. So I accepted their offer, and my son went to live with them, which caused deep, deep hurt. And so when he went to live with them, I was working, trying to, get on my feet, and I just got involved with the wrong crowd, and sometimes that's all it takes.
It's so easy to do, though, at a young age like that. You're still finding yourself. You had your son to deal with. You'd been through obviously some things that were difficult. And so when you're young, you're not the person that you're going to become later in life. And it's just really difficult to make the right decisions when your stressors are so intense. I can't imagine what that was like for you, to be frank.
Yeah, it's when I think about it, just feels like a whole nother person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a whole nother life.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely, like you said, I'm not that person any longer. So I got involved with the wrong crowd, and we at the Refuge, we take responsibility for our actions. We don't blame anything. We don't point fingers at anyone. Did A, B, and C maybe steer us in this direction, but at the end of the day, we made the decisions we made. And I started drinking. I got involved. I started taking painkillers and things like that. It's people, places, and things is very real. Who you surround yourself with, your crowd, all these things. It really determines a lot.
It sure does.
Of what you fall into,
especially at a young age.
Especially at a young age. So I made many, many, many poor decisions. So I'll just, to make a long story short, I fell into addiction, and it was not until I was 32 years old that I woke up here in St. John's County. Didn't even know where I was. I was on a hotel. I was in a hotel. I thought I was still in Broward County. I called my brother from the hotel room. The maids found me there, and of course they had to call law enforcement, and pills were found on me, and I found myself going into St. John's County Jail. And so just rewind a little bit. During this 14-year approximate addiction, I have a history of incarceration. And during that time, I tried so hard to get out of it. I put myself in detox centers and programs and rehabs, but I had nowhere to go when I got out.
Yeah.
But back to where I came from.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say like people didn't try for me. From time to time, my dad has stepped in and tried to, give me a place to stay, try to help me. But I was so deep into, where I was. I didn't even know how to live. Because that's all I knew. It's like I've lived in the streets for so long, and I was rebellious, and I didn't know a better way. And you'll see when I share about the Refuge how that plays such a big role in these women that come to us, that come off the streets and come out of incarceration and out of addiction. We're a home environment. We're not an institution. They have bedrooms, and I know I'm all over the place a little bit.
No, you're not. It's your story.
But it's we're really a family, and we walk alongside them, and communication is huge. I mean, they're in counseling 2 to 3 times a week, depending on who they're seeing. It's either myself, which I do more of the biblical, and we have a life coach and a trauma therapist. And so they're really working through their studies. Women in the community come in, bring classes like codependency and boundaries. They work through fear, anger management. They work through so many things that I realized that I needed. It's like, we're put out there after we get out of incarceration, or even if it's a detox center or a hospital. And it's not just addiction. It's we find ourselves, women who find themselves in hopeless places, and try to end it. They don't have hope, and they just don't want to live any longer. And I've picked up women from hospitals and all over the place. So when they get out, they don't know where to go or how to live, and they need some direction. And that's what I needed at a very young age. That's what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thankful that whether it was 16, 18, or 32, that God opened that door for me. And that was through the Refuge.
So you found your way through the women's refuge.
Yes. So when I went to St. John's County Jail, after, they found me in the hotel, and I called my brother. I thought I was still in Broward. I'm asking him to pick me up, and the maids are like, you're in St. John's County. And I was like, they're like, you're in St. Augustine. I was like, what is St. Augustine? So, and then I went to jail, and I was sentenced to 6 months. And while I was there, so at that time, from waking up here, I was only out of jail about 6 weeks from Broward County Jail. But that time that I was in Broward County Jail, they placed me in a 90-day program. It was called ATEC, and in that program, they offer, like, you're not just sitting there. You're in groups, you're doing things, you're learning, you're growing. And I had a cell to myself. And this is where God really reached me. And it was through a lady who came into the unit, and she had a big picture of her mugshot of before. And I was angry at this time. So I didn't even attend this group, but I heard them talking out there, and I went to the window, little tiny window we have. So I went to the window, and I look out to see what's going on, and I see this lady walking up and down sharing her story. Didn't even look like the same person who was in that mugshot. And that stayed with me. And then I started going to groups, and someone handed me a little pamphlet, because I had a Bible. And believe it or not, even through all my mess since I was young, I always carried a Bible with me, but never really, opened it and read it, like, to take it in, just applied little scriptures to my life here and there, So I was handed this little pamphlet. It was the book of John. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is doable. Because the Bible was just intimidating to me. I look at it and I'm like, I'm not opening that big thing. So I went into my cell by myself, and it's very rare that you have a cell to yourself, but I had a cell to myself. And so I had the freedom to pray. And I read, when I opened it, I remember putting my hand on it and saying, okay, if you're real, I want to understand, help me to understand. And I want to know truth. That's all I want to know. It's not about a denomination. It's not about religion, anything like that. I just want to know truth. And I started reading it, and it was like I was receiving it. And so from then I opened the Bible and I was looking at the little pamphlet of John, and then I was looking at the book of John in the Bible. So that's what got me into reading, or initially reading whole books in the Bible, but I kind of stuck to John because I was comfortable. So then I was released, and I had nowhere to go but back to where I came from. And that place, there was just drugs everywhere. So I was clean for about 2 weeks, and it wasn't long before I took a pill, and then one thing led to another. But this time, my motivation to do right was different. It was almost like I had this gut conviction that, I need to get it right. This is, and not only that, but I wasn't just trying to do it for myself or my son any longer. It was bigger than that. It was now about God. And I truly believe that God reached my heart in that cell. But still, I, had to take its course. I was still where I was. And so then that's when I ended up waking up here 6 weeks later, in St. Augustine, going to jail again. But this time, I was ready for a fresh start, and I knew nobody here. And I was like, you know what? I believe that, I was trying to put my trust in a God that I didn't yet truly know. And but I said a prayer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to. What do I have to lose? I know where that other road leads. I've been there. I'm going to. If God, if this is truly you, let's go. I want to know. And so I put in a request to the chaplain, and I had tons of questions, and not only that, but I wanted help. And I was praying for, because I've faced a lot of trauma through my addiction.
Sure.
With men, all kind of things. Yeah. And so I was seeking a woman's program, and I was praying for godly women. And it's like God answered my prayers so specifically. And so who responded to my request from jail ministry was Joan Clements, who was the founder of the Women's Refuge. And I knew nothing about the Women's Refuge yet. She was coming in and seeing me on a regular basis. And if you know Myrtle Hollingsworth.
I don't. I know the name, but I don't know her.
So everyone knows Dennis Hollingsworth. Yeah. He's the tax collector. Yeah. They wrote a lot of checks to him. So yeah. So it was his mother.
Okay.
And she's like part of of the refuge. We were initially called Helen's House, and that's after her daughter, Dennis's sister, who passed away at a young age, who had a heart for hurting women. And so that's a whole nother story in itself of how the refuge was born. But Joan was doing jail ministry, so was Myrtle. So they were coming in and they were visiting with me. And I knew nothing about the refuge at that time. They were just talking to me, asking questions. I shared my story, told them what I was looking for, but I mainly had a lot of questions about the Bible. And then it was like maybe a few weeks before I was getting released that I was called out of my unit, and she had an application to the Women's Refuge for me. And she picked me up right outside of the jail upon release. So, and that's, God began his amazing work in my heart. And she passed away in January of 2016. And her husband, who was the president of the organization, passed away in September of 2016. So that just, swept the rug right from under us. We were like, what are we going to do? Do we continue this ministry? What about leadership? And at that time, so I came into the program in 2009, and I graduated the program in 2010, and they asked me to stay on as staff. And I really prayed about that. And I truly believe that God was leading me to do that. So I stayed in the home, and I was the live-in house manager for 7 years. So I lived at the refuge. I worked part-time, but I managed the home while taking online classes through Liberty University for psychology and Christian counseling. That's truly how I felt I was being led as I was going through, just actually walking through. I would, because I did all the studies, I went through the program, and I was going to school, so I got hands-on training. So I was doing classes, and I was meeting with the ladies, and doing all the things that, what I was going to school for. So I did get my degree. I finished that, and so the board, when they passed, they left a big hole, in our hearts in many ways, ministry, and they were my godparents. I was asked to step in as the director. And at that time, I was working full time at Turning Point at Calvary. I worked there for 5 years. And I didn't feel led at that time. And I really prayed about it. And so I stepped in as assistant director, and a couple of ladies came in and tried the director position. And that was like a 2-year period. So some things, just throughout those years, it just didn't work for whatever reason with the women who stepped in. And it was 2000, and it was 2018 that I finally felt led to step up. So it was from 2016 to 2018 of prayer. And but looking back, I see why it had that
Things
time
happen for a reason.
Yes, it was like I needed that time because I learned so much throughout those 2 years, and working at Turning Point, and all the things that I learned there at Turning Point, and being a part of the ministry, still accepting women into the home, still working with women, and doing jail ministry. I started going to the very jail I was held at, going in and ministering to women there, and a lot of our women come from there. So when it was time, it just was time, and that's how we got to, how I got to where I am today in the ministry, and I just thank God every day. I'm just so with a humble and thankful heart. I'm so thankful that God stepped in. And
But it also took you being brave enough to do the work, to recognize the opportunities. And it took you believing in something that you could do this, I mean, you also personally are a major part of what you've accomplished. You really are.
It was just me saying yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord. But God put such a fire in my heart, because I see these ladies, and it's like, my goodness, I've walked it. I know it doesn't have to be this way. There's help, there's hope. Just do the hard work, And sometimes we see the ladies, they're like, I tell them, I'm like, you see that, look at your whole life, right? You've wasted years and years. Why not just set 1 year aside and see what God can do with that? All you have to do is be willing, and they're like, oh, you say a year.
But it's also about taking small steps, like you break it down into a year. It's not about, let's look at the next 50 years or 25 years. It's about taking just one step every day, one step forward, or being open to taking a step. That's how you look at things to accomplish something.
Once they do take that initial step and they come in, they begin to understand. And I think she could testify to that. They see like, okay, this is different. Something's different. And they see and two, they look at the other women, and they see the joy, and they look at them, and then they hear their story. And the women who are further along, they cheer them on, and tell them, listen, I was there. I know, I get it. but it changes usually in the first quarter, and we celebrate every milestone. Our milestones are each quarter. We sit and we do a progress report, and our ladies bring to the table these reports of a report of everything that they've done, something that it spoke to them that they've learned throughout each thing that they're doing while they're with us, and how they would encourage someone else, and how they're going to continue to use it in their life. They're going to take this change and hold on to it, continue to move forward. So it's beautiful. We really celebrate that. They get to choose a dessert that they like. And we really make a big deal. We put up a congratulations banner, and they have their dessert. And some of our ladies who have graduated and moved on, they all come. And even now, some of our graduates, they join us for dinner. They join us for evening devotions, and they live local. We help them not just heal, but we help them get on their feet. They work on their 6-month period, depending, because everybody's story. Yeah. Some grow really quickly, like this young lady. And so she started working at 4 months. But some just need a little more time. And that says nothing about anything.
Everybody's got their own path.
It's just, my goodness, some have come from really, really hard places, and they just need a little more time. And so we tailor it to the person, but they all walk through, they do like forgiveness. Again, like I said, anger management, and this says so much here. Drug education, relapse prevention, goal setting, coping skills, building family relationships is huge in this process, because we all, I will include myself, have burnt so many bridges. I mean, I'm so thankful for the relationships that God has restored with my family, with my dad and my mom and my siblings. And, I'm just so thankful for that, because to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they never talked to me again. But they know that the change that has happened in me is real. And if anyone's going to know, your family's going to know.
Yeah.
So they see you and they're like, wow, there's a real change. What's going on? So that opens the door to even minister, witness to them. And,
Tell me, I want to give Chelsea a chance to tell her story as well, because I'm very interested for you to do that. But tell me a little bit about truly what the Women's Refuge is. You've alluded to it, but tell me, give me the synopsis of what it is.
So we are a very structured, intensive program, and she will share this as well. We are a residential program for women coming from hard places. And we don't say rehab, we say regeneration, because they're not being restored to an original state. They are taking on a whole new identity. And identity is huge in this program, because
that's really interesting.
Yes, because when we look at where we've come from, it's like we receive all these messages and labels that the world and even ourselves we put on ourselves, because we've failed. We would see ourselves like we take on these labels like failure, worthless, just so many things. But to come to know who we are in Christ, and to understand that we have made poor choices, but that does not define us. Mm-hmm. That does not mean this is who we are. Mm-hmm. So we come out of that. We work through it, but we come out of that, and emotions plays a big part. So we learn to identify our emotions, why we're feeling, what are the message in that emotion? Is that true, or is that, so we speak truth over ourselves. We're not failures. We're not worthless. We have gifts and talents and abilities that God has built in us, and for whatever reason, we did not operate in that before. But it's never hopeless. It's never too late. Today's the day. Let's do it. So that's a big part of our program, where the ladies are up at 6 a.m. We have our schedule on the wall. The ladies are up at 6 a.m. We meet at the table for group devotions and prayer, and just community. at 6:30, and then they exercise. They work out for 30 minutes, and then they have a time frame where they can, after working out, where they can have breakfast, and they can take showers, and they get all their materials and things together. 8:45, they have to be ready for studies, counseling. It's either like with myself or with our trauma counselor. So they just have to be ready for that. And then it's quiet in the house for the most part, because they're all either, they have individual assignments, because like Chelsea's getting ready to graduate in October. She's in her final phase. So I think she's on her last 2 studies of the program. So her walk looks completely different. And now she's working full time. And God is just so good, you know. So now when they come in, they're fresh. We have a lady who's like maybe 2 months in. So her
It's very
looks
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's sitting there. She's working on her studies, and she has a little more counseling because she's still very raw.
Sure.
But that's what the day looks like. We are involved in the community. Wednesdays, the ladies normally, our ladies right now are at a Bible study. So women in the community, they gather at a house, and so they do that every Wednesday night. We go to church. We go to Anastasia Bible study. So we do different things. You know, we'll go to the beach sometimes on the weekends, and you know, we want it to be realistic. So we don't just keep them locked up in the house and they're engrossed in these studies, but you know, they build a strong support system with the community that we're involved in. They volunteer every Tuesday, and but right now they're not volunteering because they're actually working. But the new batch will. You know, when I say new batch, we have a lady prayerfully joining us next week, a new lady. So we'll 2 of our ladies will be new, and the other 2 will be moving on soon. It's we get so close, we don't want to let them go, but they have to. They have to go.
It's so apparent to me, your love for this organization, your passion for it, and I can see it in your eyes, I can see it in your voice, I can see it in your face, and it's really beautiful to see that, I have to tell you. It just oozes out of you, your love for what you're doing and for the organization.
Very much. Much. I don't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see.
We become family, don't we? Yeah, we truly become family, and most of the women who graduate choose to stay local here.
I would tell you, I can see where if you came to speak with me and that what just emanates from you comes out of you and I'm sitting in a jail cell, or I'm sitting in some place where I'm struggling with something, and you came to talk to me, I can see where I would say, I'm going to trust this person. It just is coming out of every pore you have. And I'm really impressed by that.
I know where God brought me from, and I know what He can do in a
You're
life.
Doing what you should be doing.
Thank you. I truly feel that way in my
it's
my
so
heart.
obvious to me. Yep.
I'm very blessed.
Chelsea, I want to talk about your story. As I said, when you came to my Rotary, I was just so incredibly impressed with your honesty and openness and your bravery. You stood in front of a group of 75-ish community leaders and business owners, and you told your story so bravely. And so I want to give you the opportunity to do that again. You can start wherever you'd like, but I want people to hear your story.
Okay. I brought it with me to read. Okay. Hello, my name is Chelsea. I am 44 years old, and I am from Orlando, Florida. I have 2 sisters, and I am the middle child. I grew up in a Christian home. We went to church and Sunday school. My father was extremely religious and closely monitored our actions to ensure they were Christ-like. When I say extreme, we weren't even allowed to watch TV. When I was 16, my father left my mother for another woman in the church, and my parents divorced. After the divorce, I stopped attending church and blamed both my father and God for breaking up my family. I became angry inside, and I completely turned away from God. I even denied he existed. I have not spoken to my biological father in over 21 years. Then I began sneaking out and smoking cigarettes, which progressed to alcohol and drug use by the age of 18. After high school, I relocated to Texas and got married. I was divorced 3 years later and moved back to Florida. I ended up in a relationship with a man who verbally abused me and kept me isolated from my family. I became pregnant by this man and had my son Ian, who is now 21 years old. This man was an alcoholic and introduced me to cocaine. I was hooked. He and I separated after 4 years. Shortly after we separated, I was introduced to heroin. It wasn't long before I overdosed. The overdose scared me, and so I put myself into treatment. And after 3 months, I started back with the cocaine. Except this time, I learned how to smoke it. It started off as a weekend thing, then led to a nightly thing, that led to a daily thing, and I was once hooked again. I hid how serious my addiction was from my family, but in reality, it had complete control of me. My addiction worsened over time, taking over my daily life, distancing me from family, and causing me to lose multiple jobs. Years passed, and I was in relationship after relationship. Then I met another man who was addicted to drugs. He was extremely controlling and threatened to hurt me and my family if I did not comply with whatever he wanted me to do. I feared him. Also, the drugs had a hold of me and were more important to me than my own safety. He taught me how to steal. We sold stolen goods for food, shelter, and drugs. I did this until I was caught by the law. I was arrested and did a few months of time. Then I went right back out and ended up with another addicted man. This cycle of abusive men and drugs was all I knew. This man threatened to kill me and my family if I did not help him with some robberies and burglaries. I helped him commit the crimes and was caught again by the law. This time it was more serious. I had 13 months in county jail waiting on a verdict. While I was in jail, I met a woman named Karen with Inside Out Jail Ministries. She suggested I go into a Christian residential program. She knew about the Women's Refuge. At that point, I was facing 12 years of prison time. I ended up asking Karen for prayer, and shortly after meeting her, I started to pray for acceptance into the Refuge program. All the while, I was still angry at God. I received an application and spoke to Debbie, the director of the Women's Refuge. Debbie got back to me and said I was approved. Now my prayer was that the judge would agree to the program instead of prison. I knew I needed some real help. After several court appearances, the judge gave me a chance and sentenced me to the Refuge program under probationary status. I was told by the judge if I messed up again, there would be no slack. I still face years in prison if I break my probation, which I do not intend to do. God dealt with me while being incarcerated. I begged him for one more chance to get it right. He answered my prayers, and it's not by chance that I'm at the Refuge. I truly believe God led me here. When I came to the Women's Refuge, I was so excited. On my first day there, I was lovingly welcomed and instantly felt at home. When I started the program, I was immediately given personal and group studies to participate in, like forgiveness, anger management, lordship, and boundaries. I also receive help from their life coach and trauma counselor. I do daily Bible readings, devotionals, and journaling. The program is intensive and structured. My whole life is being worked on. I completely surrendered to God 2 months after entering the Refuge program. I repented of my sins and my past, accepted Christ Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and was baptized. I have completely new outlook on my life. God and learning His Word have completely changed me. I am now 24 months clean, and for the first time since I can remember, addiction does not have power over me. I never thought this was possible, but God made it possible. God forgave me. I forgave myself and others who have hurt me. I'm working on rebuilding my family relationships and found love and acceptance like I've never felt before. My family loves me and have tried to help me over the years, but I could not be helped by anyone or anything. Not until I met God for who He truly is. With Him, all things are possible. Now I can say that I truly have hope. I got to hug my son for the first time in 2 years. My relationship with him and my family is being restored. I have tried rehab 7 times over the past 29 years and failed each time. What makes this recovery different from the others is that I have surrendered my life over to God, and I have made up my mind to move forward instead of backwards. My hope for the future is not one of death and destruction, but of love, joy, peace, and life. I have been at the Refuge now for 11 months. I have a good job that I love. I have been blessed with a vehicle. I have paid off my restitution and am paying my court fines monthly. I say this because it feels good to take responsibility, and I'm working to come out from under the consequences of my past. I plan to stay here in St. Augustine, close to my refuge and church family. I'm so thankful to have been given a second chance at life. I would like to close with my life verse, which is 2 Timothy 4:7. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Thank you, and God bless each one of you.
Amen.
So first off, congratulations for all that you've accomplished.
Thank you.
It's impressive. And I, once again, am just struck by the courage that it takes to do what you just did on air like this. I don't know many people who I think have that courage. So you should be extremely proud of yourself.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you a few questions, and if anything is too personal, you feel like you don't want to answer it, I'm not offended at all. Please just tell me.
Okay.
What does it feel like to be addicted the way that you were to drugs or to alcohol or something in such an intense way? What does that feel like? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's just such a deep, dark place. You feel alone. It's just a nightmare day, every day, every night. You just lose touch with reality. You lose touch with yourself, who you really are. You do things that you never thought you would ever do just to get that one hit, that one drug that you love so much. You're seeking for love, but you're just seeking it in the wrong places.
How do you get to the point where you realize that you want to do something differently and you think you can do it? How do you when you're in the midst of that, how do you get to the point where you say, I'm going to try this and I can do it?
Yeah.
Is it gradual? Is it
No, because I tried like 7 times over the past 29 years to get clean off drugs. And each time I failed. I stayed a couple weeks, a month at the longest, in some cases, and just went right back out to the people and the circumstances that I went to before. So then I would end up right back in that cycle again. But for me, this past time was definitely being in jail. I had gone in and out of being incarcerated several times before this past time, but this was my longest stay in jail, which was 13 months. And while I was there, I guess you could say I was scared straight. I seen the other people in there and the other people that were also addicts and, just, done horrible things in their life because of the drugs. And day in and day out, I just wish that I never had ever gotten into any of that. It was really scary.
This may not be something that you can answer, but are there drugs in the jails and
the one I was in Orange County Jail in Orlando. No, there wasn't. Now they did make me go to prison for a month from the stay right before I came to the Refuge, just to get me put in the system, and in case something happens with me breaking the probation, which I'm not going to do. But they just had to have me in the system that way. But in prison, yes, there was.
So I would imagine that that's really difficult as well, because the environment there, you can't leave it.
It was rough.
You can't leave it.
It was a whole different level. I mean, some of the girls that had been in jail were like, oh, prison's so much better, and you can't wait till you get it's some great place. And it was just darker than the first place that I was in, And yeah, there was, some of my bunk mates and things like that were into doing drugs. And I just had already been accepted into the Refuge program, and I knew that's where I was heading. So they actually moved me over to a Christian-based program in prison just because they didn't have enough room in general population. And they're like, oh, you're only going to be here a few weeks. We'll move you over there, which was another God wink from him because, it was so scary. I was so scared. I mean, people were getting beat up all the time. Just people were just nasty to you if you were new, and you just really, really, really felt alone.
Do you look back on yourself and think that that's a different person?
Yes, absolutely. I know it is. And I know that that's my crimes that I've committed, my criminal background, my addiction. I know that's not my identity today. That may be what the world thinks, but I don't care about what the world thinks. I care about what God thinks about me. And he thinks that I'm a child of God. I am forgiven. I am loved. I am 100% accepted by him. And that's what I've been needing all these years, is just acceptance. And not that my family didn't, because they love me and they tried to help me over the years. But I think for a lot of people, there's always just that empty spot in your heart that you're seeking for something, and it's only a spot that God can fill for you.
How much do you think that, and this is really a question maybe for both of you, whomever wants to answer it, but as a female, I'm curious, how much do you think having a women's based program made the difference for you versus men and women, or men sort of being in charge of it?
I think, this particular program, I have had, where both men and women run the facilities and things like that. And it's different because I feel like the men can't relate because I've been so hurt by men in the past. Like, I just feel like having a woman that's been there, walked there, that's been in your same shoes, been through abusive relationships, that they actually get it. I mean, even some people that I talked to in the past at past rehabilitation centers and stuff, like, they were really educated and things like that in their field, but they didn't have personal experience. So I felt like I couldn't connect with them very well,
That's why I asked, because as a female, I would think it would be really important to have a female program and have the support system that comes from women, and particularly women who have been through it as well, but just women, because, I think about things that I've been through or just relationships that I have, and it's often just so difficult to explain to men what it's like to live life as a female in specific scenarios, how you're treated, how you're talked to, and they're trying to maybe understand, but it's just different. It's very different. And I suppose I can't understand what it's like for a male as well, right. So I would think that would be a key to this program, is the focus on women in it and the support system of women. Mm-hmm. What are your plans for the next 3 months, 6 months?
Well, I'm currently working, and I've been there since February, working at Alpha Omega Thrift Shop. They've been great in my recovery. They're very supportive. But I would like to maybe take some classes also through Light University, which Debbie introduced me to, probably on addiction and mental health counseling. So I want to start those in the next couple months, probably when I'm done doing my studies at the Refuge.
Did you ever see yourself coming out of what you were involved in at any point and see you as the person that you are today? Could you ever envision that?
No, never. Never. I still get shocked seeing myself in the mirror some days. Like, wow. I'm somebody that has really gone through it. And if my story can help just one person out there.
Well, I can tell you that your story hits people. It can't not. Both of your stories. again, I'm just so blown away by the courage that it takes to tell these stories, and I'm so impressed. How does the Women's Refuge exist? How do they get funding?
So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are funded through individuals, churches. We do, of course, we have our fundraisers. We have our 8th annual golf tournament coming up September 19th. So our website, you can, if you're interested or want a team or want to sponsor, you go to our website. We're in the process of building another home on our property. We're going to be able to house an additional 9 ladies.
How many do you house now?
Right now, up to 6.
That's not a lot.
No, but it's
it's a shame because I'm sure there is such a need, right? Good for you.
Yes.
But.
And so it's good in a way that it's very intimate, and we could give everyone, I'm sorry, Chelsea had me crying.
Yeah, I get that.
We can give them, one-on-one attention that they really need. But it would be just wonderful to be able to help more women. It's like we get calls and emails and things every single day. There's just not enough help. I know there are a lot of helps, and there are wonderful organizations and helps in the community, St. Johns County.
But still, to have to turn away people or to say
yes,
we can't do
very
that.
Hard.
Yeah, it's got to be difficult.
And right now we do have a full house. One of our ladies just moved on. She was 25. She is 25 years old, and she's in the process of getting her GED, and we help them with that too. If they don't have their diplomas, we take them to the local tech, school, and they get their GED and those kind of things. But we're just funded through. Some of the families can help, but we really are getting out there and trying to fundraise.
What's the website? What's the address?
Women's Refuge of stjo.com.
Is there a way to put that up on the screen, Blake? Do you need it again? Thank you. If you need it again, just interrupt me, please. What's your biggest need? Is it money? Is it people? Is it what's your biggest need?
So at the moment it's funds. It's funds. It's so hard, we do need a director of development. That would be wonderful to have some help in that area. We have a beautiful group of volunteers who help with transportation and things like that for our ladies. But to get out there in the community, it's hard to balance everything. And I work so closely with the ladies, so I am at the ministry. So it's hard I can't be. Yeah. So someone that can help with that, we definitely need help with fundraising, a fundraising person or someone who can get out there in the community and help us with that.
Do you, Chelsea, what do you say to people that come in the program that are newly arriving? What do you say to them in that point of their life?
That if they just hang in there and give it 100%, then they can be just as happy as I am. Because I know when I went in there and seen everybody all bubbly and everything, I'm like, really? Like, and it's real. Yeah. It's a real happiness, true happiness with yourself, with everything going on in your life. And I definitely would say, just don't look back, look forward. You do have a good future. You have an eternal future through Christ. So,
do you have any idea how many people have been helped since you became part of the leadership in the program?
Not since I have. We do keep a track of all the ladies who have come through since we have been in operation. So the doors opened in 2005. So we've been in operation just a little over, let's say 20 21 years. So I'd say at the moment we have 62 women have come through the program since 2005.
I have to ask you, do you have anyone who, I don't know what the word is, relapses or, doesn't eventually has to come back through? Does that happen?
So we have not had women come through again. They do. Yes, they do. And that's,
because it's such an overwhelming change and so many things you're dealing with.
And two, the life that, these doors that have been opened and the extreme, how do I say it? It's just, it's a real and powerful thing. When you've walked this road, you have to be careful with everything. Where you go, who you befriend, who your circle, all the things. You have to make sure you have support. You have to be disciplined. There's so many things that they learn. Coping skills. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's what I'm imagining. Again, I haven't walked your walk, but I can imagine how challenging that is. And to not go backwards, even when you successfully complete your program. I think it must be just a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day thing to stay focused and to believe in yourself.
Right.
And to believe in a higher power and whatever they works for them.
And the reason why we are a minimum 12 months. We're 12 to 24 months, but even then we have one lady who's been with us 2 years, but her situation is completely different. So that's why it's long term. It doesn't, these kind of changes and it doesn't happen overnight, especially when you've been walking this path for so long. It has to be long term. It's like 30 days or 90 days, that's great. But if you've walked this road for any length of time, you need longer.
Sure. Look how long it took you. So now it's not going to be overnight.
And when our ladies, I will say if they do relapse in some way, they call us. They come back around and they because they know that we do not judge them. We love them. We want to, we all make mistakes. No matter where we are in life, we all have things that we struggle with, whether it's food or money or drugs.
I probably make more mistakes every day than anybody.
I mean, we all do, because our things, we all have things that have power over us, right? That we struggle with. So it just depends on what it is. And so we hold each other accountable, and we stay in each other's lives no matter where we go. And if you do mess up, please come to us, because that doesn't mean throw in the towel. Your life's not over. You messed up, get back up.
Yeah.
That doesn't just wipe away everything you've done. And I have made some poor decisions since 2009, since coming to the Refuge. And if I believed like my life was over, or that's it, I'm just a no good for nothing, and like all the labels that I believed before are true of me, and that's all that the old stuff coming back. And it's like, no, I messed up. I acknowledge it. I have trusted people that I can go to. I will confess it, because we need to talk to somebody. And then, you know what? We love on each other. We say, let's get back on. Let's keep walking. Your life's not over. Let's keep going. So the ladies, when they stay in touch, no matter where they can go across the world, and they still,
thank goodness they do stay in touch.
They do. And it's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. I did want to share about something she said about her son. And with families, I know we're probably
that's fine.
over time.
That's fine.
But with families, to see the restoration, we've seen mothers restored with their children. And this is where the community plays a big part too. we help them find residency, and their kids come and stay with them, and just we've seen God do just great things. I just I love to see, like, with her son and some of our other ladies. We had a other lady who graduated 2 years ago, and she stays local. Actually, she works at the thrift store too. 4 kids. She has 3 of her 4 kids right now, and just a beautiful mother, works hard, very disciplined. And, just to see that, that's the reward,
Well, it
that's the
truly is
reward.
life-changing to not only the woman's life, but her children's lives and those around them. I mean, you can't get more important than to have that effect on people's lives and to have people create those lives for themselves. I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What do you hope that your legacy is when all is said and done?
That that I lived in darkness, and that coming to God was my light. And that's the only thing that's important to me, is that people know that God changed my life. Truly.
Well, our time is up. I wish I had more time. I want to, again, just tell both of you how impressed I am with you and how I'm so awed by the courage that you display and sharing your story. And I hope that both of you are truly so proud of yourselves and what you've accomplished and the lives that you're changing by what you're doing. I'm just so incredibly impressed with both of you. I appreciate the time that you gave me today. And Blake, were you able to put that website up on the screen? So I hope that people seeing this understand the importance of what the Women's Refuge does and that they're willing to help in your efforts. Thank you, both of you, Chelsea and Debbie. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you for tuning in to the St. Augustine Chronicles.